And so I'm going through that process, and at times it's a bit frustrating because there's just so much back and forth and documentation, etc. But in that frustration comes growth, and I've learned so much more about the process, and that's why I always talk about just get in the game, do, be, and then have.
You're listening to Flip Empire, the show committed to helping real estate entrepreneurs who want to build their empire without sacrificing their life. Your success and freedom starts now with your host, Alex Pardo.
What's going on? What's going on? My name is Alex Pardo, and on today's Flip Empire show, I'm going to talk to you about the recipe for success in business. And I'm going to talk to you about expectations, and some of what I might share you may agree with, some of you may disagree with, and I want to invite you to an open conversation and dialogue, whether it's on, ideally, probably on social media. So hopefully if you find value in the content, the topic of today's podcast episode, then share this with people, and let's start a dialogue, because before I get into it, I want to share a few things, but I want you to listen to this podcast from start to finish. I want to just provide some updates because some of you have been reaching out. This has been a crazy summer in a great way. For those of you who may be aware, spent about 3 weeks island hopping in Greece with my family. And I've had so many of you reach out to me and just, wanting to ask questions about the experience and where I stayed. And, it was pretty epic. And I will forever be filled with just so much gratitude to be able to do that and be able to provide some of those experiences for my family. My girls' family, we're still talking about just experience overall and some of the stories, and just an incredible time. And that's part of the reason that we work hard and smart, right? Is to be able to provide for our family and to be able to enjoy some of these things, have some of these experiences. And what's cool about it is, when I went out there, when I went to Greece, I was a little conflicted from the perspective of I wanted to, there was a part of me that just wanted to completely unplug from technology, social media, etc., and just take it all in. And I was going to do that. And I still did that, by the way. I still did that. I still took it all in. Trust me, I absorbed every second of it. But I said it would be a disservice not to document this, and I'm glad I did, because I had so many people tell me, man, Alex, I felt like I was with you and your family in Greece. So it was just incredible. And that's a driver for me, is to be able to do more of that. We just love to travel. And so having clarity around your desires, your wants, don't feel guilty about what you want, whether it's a certain amount of money, whether it's certain toys you want to enjoy, whether it's, don't feel guilty about that. That's out there for anyone and everyone. What I would challenge you to do is don't get blinded by that, thinking that that's where happiness lies. And I think that's kind of an interesting segue to today's conversation, because I was watching a YouTube video by the gentleman. I want to give him credit because he's the one that kind of sparked the inspiration for this particular podcast, and just got me thinking. A gentleman by the name of Alex Hermosi that I was turned on to. He's got a great YouTube channel. He's been putting out some really good content. And he was talking about, there's a couple of things he said. He said, wealth is not a number. Wealth is a ratio. And I was like, that's interesting. And then he went on to elaborate, and he was talking about how, if we are happy and we live on, let's say, $50,000 a year, let's call it $100,000 a year. The number's irrelevant. For you, it could be $500,000 a year. It could be $5 million a year. But if you can live on, let's say, 50 grand a year, and you make, let's say, 100 grand a year, you're in a better position to be happy versus it being reversed, right? Where you make 50 grand a year, but you need 100 grand to live. So the idea is that it's all perspective. Again, you might be thinking to yourself, Alex, there's no way I could live on 50 grand or 100 grand or even $1 million, right? The number is not what's important here. It's the fact that it's a ratio, and it's the whole idea of haves versus wants, right? If you have everything you need and you're happy, if you have everything you need, then that's a recipe for happiness. But if you always desire and want more than you have, that it's the opposite, right? That's a recipe for unhappiness. And so, when I first heard that, I was kind of pushing back. One of the things as I get older, I tend to question things more internally, right? And I think that critical thinking skills in this country, in this world, is one of those things that unfortunately there's a big lack of, right? I think a lot of people are just, they're so accustomed to being told what to do and how to think, and critical thinking has kind of gone out the window. And I think COVID and this pandemic has really shined a big bright spotlight, in my humble opinion, on that very fact. But so in questioning initially, I was like kind of pushing back. I'm like, well, the alpha in me, the driver in me, the ambition in me wants to push back and say, no, we always want to be striving for more and striving for better. And I'm not talking about more as far as like toys, right? Yachts and cars and houses and all that fun stuff. But just in terms of becoming a better person. But that's not what this gentleman was saying at all. He was just talking about wealth being a ratio, and the whole concept of haves versus wants. If you always want more than you have, can you truly be happy? And I'm not here to answer that question for you, but I'm here more to plant the seed and get you stirring, or get your mind stirred about that very question, and question for you, the idea of haves versus wants. And then that led me to thinking about expectations. I recently interviewed a couple of people for our Boots on the Ground. So for those of you who have been kind of following my storage journey, I got involved in the storage business in December of 2020. And I'm currently under contract to close on a 43,600 square foot facility, it's 358 units in Mississippi. And it's already cash flowing. There's room to expand. So there's value add components. I mean, it's a solid deal all the way around. And so, purchase price on that is 1.6. And we're obtaining SBA financing and going through that fun process. The people at the bank have been phenomenal. They've been great. But there is so much that they ask and require, right? Everything short of blood samples. And so I'm going through that process, and at times it's a bit frustrating because there's just so much back and forth and documentation, et cetera. But in that frustration comes growth. And I've learned so much more about the process. And that's why I always talk about just get in the game, do, be, and then have. You get what I'm saying? So let me break that down a little bit. Do the types of actions that's going to help you become the person you want to become. So be, and then you have the things you want. It's not the reverse. So anyway, I share that. I kind of went off on a little bit of a tangent, but it's related, and I'm going to tie it all together here. So we're about, I'm guessing, 2 to 4 weeks away from closing at this point. And I'm interviewing boots on the ground people. Boots on the ground is basically like a part-time on-site property manager, right? And so I'm interviewing a couple people, and one of the things I have learned throughout the years, particularly when it comes to working with people, collaborating, is coaching, relationships, really any type of interaction, dialogue, communication with people. Oftentimes it's that relationship, the health of that relationship can sometimes hinge on the level of expectations that you communicate up front. And that's a two-way street. So I was, sharing with this particular person who, by the way, I ended up hiring. And I think we found a phenomenal rock star boots on the ground person who I'm super excited about. But anyway, so I was sharing with her expectations, and I asked her, I said, what are your expectations of me? What are your expectations of this role of, being a valued team member, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And that really got me to thinking about expectations. And you want to increase and you want to expect more out of yourself as far as your mindset, as far as your actions, as far as your activity, but you want to decrease the expectations you have externally, right? And I'm not talking about, in this particular case, I'm not talking about me decreasing my expectations in her ability to perform the job and the, certain metrics that she has to hit, or certain task, roles, and responsibilities. No, you don't want to tolerate a lack of your expectations being met, but you want to decrease your expectations as far as the outcome is concerned. And that was one of the things that this guy Alex Hormozi was talking about that just really got me thinking, and it had me questioning my own thoughts about expectations. Because I've always come from the perspective of I expect nobody's ever going to expect more of me than I expect of myself. But then I think I have projected that on others as well, where I expect more of them. And I think honestly, that's one of the things that I've been told makes me a good coach is that the accountability and the expectations, right? I never want people that I work with, I never want to allow them to accept and tolerate less than what they're capable of, right? And so that's where coaching, asking the right questions, pushing, prodding, the accountability, I think that's where it's so valuable, right? And I do my best to surround myself with people that are not going to tell me what they think I want to hear, but are going to tell me like what the deal is. Tell me what they really think, even if it might be painful, or even if they think it might rub me the wrong way. Like, they know I got thick skin and I want to be challenged, provided that it's coming from the right place and it's coming from a place of, hey, you're better than this. You're capable of so much more. And to the degree that you can surround yourself with people like that, it is going to have a profound impact on your life and ultimately on your business. So I really want you thinking about those three things. I want you to think about wealth being a ratio, not necessarily a number. And do you need and desire more than you have, right? Or do you have more than you need? So think about that. And then think about the whole idea of increasing the expectations you have of yourself, while at the same time decreasing the expectations on the certain outcomes, right? So like, imagine if you had the mindset, if you adopted the philosophy and the mental framework that, hey, I'm going to demand and expect more of myself than anybody ever will of me, while at the same time, I'm not tied to the outcome. In other words, I know that if I put in the work, I know that if I'm very intentional and purposeful about the things I got to do to live my vision and accomplish my goals, and I'm increasing the expectation in my career while simultaneously decreasing the expectation I have on the outcome of that very thing, I think he's right. I think that is a recipe for success in business, and ultimately can lead to just more happiness in your life. So I know this particular episode is maybe slightly different, not even that different, right? Than some of the other content I've covered, but it just kind of got the wheels turning, and I wanted to personalize it, and I wanted to kind of share my spin with you that in the process of questioning these very things, there was initial resistance and pushback until I really started to dig a layer deeper. So I really want to encourage you to question things and get your wheels turning. The mind is one of the most powerful things that one of the most powerful gifts I think God's given us. And the question is, what percentage of the brain power we have are we even using? For most people, it's a small percentage. So anyways, just wanted to kind of plant some of those seeds. And again, I invite you to have a conversation with me about it. Really appreciate those of you who have taken the time to leave a 5-star rating and reviews. Definitely want to thank our new sponsors, Call Magicians and Left Main REI. Just phenomenal services. You guys can head over to callmagicians.com. Check them out. leftmainrei.co. In my opinion, the best CRM I have ever seen for real estate investors. Just two phenomenal companies. The people behind them are incredible, and just really proud to have them as sponsors of the Flip Empire show. So definitely support them. Definitely check them out. And overall, I'm excited about everything going on in my life. I want to continue to share with you the good, the bad, and the ugly. right now I'm in a season where I got a lot on my plate, and I realized that I need a personal assistant, an executive assistant. And so, that's obviously not the purpose of this show, but if you happen to know someone, or if you might have any interest, depending on your situation, shoot me an email, alex@flipempire.com. In the subject line, just put assistant, and happy to talk. Got a lot of things going on with the podcast. It continues to grow. It's pretty awesome, the growth it's had this year. So the podcast is growing. Ascend is rocking. Just everything in storage and lending and some rentals and just a lot of cool stuff going on. I got some other investments going on outside of real estate that I haven't even talked about, namely in e-com and a few other places. So just some cool things going on. And I'm excited to share with you again, the wins, the losses, the lessons learned, and everything in between. This podcast sometimes might not be, let's just say you're not always going to hear about the wins and the success and the unicorns and the rainbows and the reality that sometimes people project isn't really reality. And I deal with L's, and I take L's on a pretty constant basis, and that's part of the journey. And I've learned that that's where the growth and the opportunity comes from. So anyway, hope you found some value in this episode, and connect with me. Seriously, reach out to me. Let me know that you checked out a show or whatever the case might be. But I really want to strengthen our relationship. I want to continue to pour into this podcast, and hopefully this podcast is pouring into you. And if I can just have a small impact on you and your business, then I've achieved my purpose. So thank you, appreciate you, and looking forward to the next one.